Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss theories of wages. So first we want to see what is wage. So wage is the payment for the service of the factor labor. It's a payment for the service provided by the factor labor. And wage can be analyzed in two ways: money wage and real wage. Money wage, it's also called nominal wage. Money wage is the wage paid in terms of money. Suppose a laborer is getting rupees 700 per day, then rupees 700 is the money wage. This money wage can also classified into time wage and piece wage. If the wage is calculated per day, per week or per month, then it is called time wage. If the wage is calculated on the basis of the quantity produced by the laborer, then it is called piece wage. For example, if a laborer is producing a particular thing and production of 1 unit will get a wage equal to 20 rupees. Then when he produces 10 units in a day, and he will get 20 into 10, 200 rupees. It is piece wage, wage on the basis of the quantity produced. Then what is real wage? Real wage refers to the amount of goods and services that the money wage can buy. Labor is getting money wage, and the quantity of goods and services that this money wage can purchase is the real wage, or it is the purchasing power of the money wage. So this real wage depends upon the price level in the economy. When the price level increases, the real wage falls because it can buy only less quantities of goods and services. So real wage is calculated as money wage divided by general price level. So real wage is directly related to money wage and inversely related to general price level. That is, when the general price level increases, real wage falls, and when the general price level falls, real wage increases. Now we can study some theories of wage. First one, the subsistence theory of wage. This theory was formulated by the physiocrats. They were a stream of economic thinkers before the classical economists. And a German economist, Lassalle, was first formulated this theory. And according to them, wages will be just sufficient for subsistence. Wages will be just sufficient for subsistence. Subsistence means amount required for a normal living. wages should be equal to amount necessary for a normal living. And if the existing wage is higher than this subsistence level, it will increase the population. An increase in population will lead to increase in labor supply. An increase in labor supply will reduce the wage rate. So what happens when the wage rate will go above the subsistence level? If the wage rate is higher than the subsistence level, the population will increase. It will increase labor supply. When labor supply increases, wage rate falls. And in the opposite case, when the existing wage rate is below the subsistence level, the population will decrease. Decrease in population will decline the labor supply, and a decline in labor supply will increase the wage rate. So they concluded that the wage rate will fix at the subsistence level. It will be constant. So this law is also called iron law of wages. Since the wage rate is fixed, it is called iron law of wages. Now, what are the assumptions of this theory? According to Lassalle, food production is subject to the law of diminishing returns. That means there is a limit to expansion of food production. Food production cannot be increased infinitely. There is a limit to the expansion of food production. And the second assumption is that population increases at an increasing rate. Population always increases at an increasing rate, but the food production cannot be always increases at an increasing rate. At some particular point it will diminish. Then what are the major limitations of this theory? First one, it gives importance to supply side only. The demand side is not considered, only supply side. When the labor supply increases, wage rate falls. When the labor supply falls, wage rate increases. But here the demand for labor is not considered. And second one, in real situation we can see that there are differences in wages. Different workers are getting different wage rate. But this theory assumes that the wages are constant at the subsistence level. Then the trade unions are powerless in increasing the wages. Since the wage rate is fixed, trade unions cannot increase the wage rate. This is also a wrong assumption. We can see that trade unions, by their bargaining, combined bargaining, increases the wage rate. Then in real situation, a rise in wages leads to higher standard of living, not an increase in population. This theory says that increase in wage rate leads to increase in population. Actually, increase in wage rate leads to increasing standard of living, not increase in population. And finally, this theory is pessimistic because it excludes the possibility of an increase in wage rate through an increase in labor productivity. In real situation, the wage rate increases with increase in productivity of laborers, but this theory does not admit that. This theory says that the wages will be always equal to subsistence level. It does not consider the productivity, increase in the productivity of laborers. So this theory is pessimistic. Now we can move on to the second theory, wage fund theory, which was introduced by J.S. Mill. And according to this theory, every firm keeps a fixed amount of capital as the reserves to pay wages for laborers. This amount is called wage fund, and the wage rate is calculated by dividing the wage fund by number of laborers. So wage rate will increase when the wage fund increases, or when the number of laborers decreases. And this theory also states that trade unions are powerless in raising the wage rate, because wage rate is always depends upon the wage fund. Trade unions cannot increase by their combined bargaining. So this theory also rejected the influence of trade unions in determining wage rate. Wage rate is exclusively depends upon wage fund, and this wage fund is decided by the firm, and wage rate does not depends upon the productivity of the workers. It depends upon the wage fund and number of workers. So this theory subjected to several criticisms. This theory does not tell us about the method of estimating wage fund. There is a wage fund, but how this wage fund is determined is not explained. Then wage fund theory is unscientific because in reality wage is determined first and the wage fund is determined in accordance with that. But this theory says that first the wage fund is determined, then the wage is decided. This theory neglects the quality and efficiency of workers in determining wage rate. The wage rate does not depend upon the quality of the workers, but the amount of wage fund. The wage fund theory has been criticized that wages cannot be increased through bargaining. Labor unions cannot increase wage rate through their bargaining because here wage is determined on the basis of amount of wage fund. Then wage fund theory has failed to explain the differences in wage rate. In real situation, wages are different, but wage fund theory states that wages are fixed, decided by dividing the wage fund by number of workers. So it will be fixed. But in real situation, wages are different. So these are the criticisms of this theory. So we have discussed two theories of wage, the subsistence theory and wage fund theory. Go through this video, and if you have any doubt, we can discuss today evening at 7:30 p.m. and have a good day. Thank you.